Okay, so that was a lot. This week was heavy on the emotions, I'm not gonna lie. But with that said, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another one of our weekly Promised Neverland Season 2 discussion videos. Today we're gonna be talking all about Episode 2, but before we get into that, quick reminder if you haven't done so yet to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, and let all of AniTube know that you're here. But without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this week's episode. I hope your aim is good because, yeah, you're gonna need it. So yeah, if you've seen the episode, you'll know why I'm talking about aim. Oh man, this is a lot. So I thought it might be a good idea to start with the whole hidden past thing, since that seems to be like the big part of the episode, you know, like that's like the big, like, oh my god, I can't believe that happened moment. And that is with like after Emma and Ray figure out what's going on, and that, you know, Sanju and Mujika, I believe is her name, Mujika? I don't remember. Mujika and Sanju aren't like trying to kill them. But yeah, this is like after that, and they sort of are awake, and they go to Sanju and they're like, so we have like a billion questions, right? As you would. And Sanju is cool enough to like respond, and I love this scene, right? Like, because Sanju in this moment sort of explains to not only Ray and Emma but also the audience, right? Like, they explain to us what the high hell is going on. And I've seen people bring this up, right? Because I've seen this like a few times from a few people saying that they didn't even really need a season 2. Like, some people were saying, like, I don't really need a season 2. I felt like the story was pretty satisfying by the end. And I was like, it was a satisfying place to end that season, bruh. Like, I needed to know how the hell this world works. So, yeah, you darn Skippy. I wanted to know what in the Seven Hells was going on. And the way that it's explained, like, what's going on, right? Where Sanju's like, okay, so I don't know what you think is going on, but whatever it is, you're not quite right. Because Emma thinks it's been like 30 years, right? Emma and Ray and basically all the kids assume that it's been 30 years since it's been like this. But Sanju's like, no, nothing's happened in the last 30 years. Don't know what you're on about, right? Like, he's sort of like, don't know what the hell you're talking about. And then they ask, like, is it not Earth? Like, are we not on Earth? Are we on like some different planet? And he's like, no, this is Earth. Like, what's going on, right? Like, he's basically like, what? No, you're not quite right. Like, I don't know what you guys think is going on, but basically what's happening is the explanation, right? Like, where we find out that because this story takes place, I believe they say 2046, I think, 2046, which would make sense, right? Since that would, 2046, take away 30 years would have put us back at 2016, which I believe is probably when these chapters were being made. I'm not super sure on that. I'm not a manga fan. You guys know this, so manga fans, feel free to correct me. But I believe that that's about right. So if you're reading this, it's really clever, because you would assume that, like, what do you mean? Like, it's definitely been 30 years, because that would put us in this time period. And even I thought that watching the show, right? Like, I just assumed that, like, yeah, it's been 30 years. No, it's been like 1,000. And it's interesting, too, because Sanju at one point says, demon, I haven't heard that in a while. So either Sanju has come across other humans, or Sanju is like 1,000 years old. Either way, I would be kind of surprised. And I'm very excited for which of those two it is. I don't know how long demons live. And Sanju even says, like, I haven't been called a demon in a long time. So I'm like, okay, so what I wonder what their race is called. And do not tell me, for the love of God, because I've had people like watch this and then not watch 2 seconds later to hear me say, do not tell me. Even if you think it's not a spoiler, I don't want to hear it, so don't say it. But Sanju explaining like the history of their world is super interesting to me, because again, it's what I've wanted to know for a long time, right? That 1,000 years ago, there was a deal struck, because demons, quote unquote demons, hunted humans, right? Because they wanted to eat humans. Humans, in turn, got fed up, and they fought back, and they hunted demons right back. And there was bloodshed and war. And eventually, the humans went, you know what? Let's have a truce, which is very human. So they go, let's have a truce, right? And this was 1,000 years ago, and they agreed to split the world into two halves, right? The demon world and the human world. Same planet, still Earth, but two separate worlds, essentially. And this led to the creation of places like Gracefield, because obviously there had to be some sort of bargaining chip, right? So there were humans who were going to have to stay behind and create Gracefield, and as we find out, the multiple other orphanages, which I think we all could have likely assumed that it wasn't just Gracefield, but the multiple orphanages across the demon world, which is gonna complicate things, because of course the kids are like, we're gonna save everybody, and I really don't think they are. Right? Like, I really doubt that, because they had, as one of the kids points out, like, they had a hard enough time escaping themselves, and they didn't even get everybody out. Like, Norman obviously didn't make it out. Phil is still at the orphanage with the other younger kids. We didn't even know what the high hell happened to Isabella. So, like, no, you didn't, right? Like, no, like you barely got out. So, no, you're not going to get rid of, or, like, to stop the other orphanages, and no, you're not going to save everybody, but, you know, they're the kids. So, of course, they think, like, no, we got through it then, we can get through it now. And it's like, I feel like, but, like, I would have accepted if, like, just Emma said it, but Ray also said it, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to chalk this up to them being kids. Because it's like, no, you're not going to, like, that's a lot. I would focus on yourselves first, if I'm super honest. That said, yeah, it's a great scene, because, like, Sanju explaining and then Emma and Ray, like, getting excited and happy at the idea that there's something else out there, that the human world exists, and that even though it's a pretty rough, like, worst case type scenario, that there's still hope, you know, like, that they can still figure something out. And that's kind of cool, you know, like, it's cool to see Ray and Emma get excited again, and to have, like, hope reignited in them, and that they're gonna make it out, and that there's a sanctuary waiting for them, you know, like, that's really cool. I loved that whole scene. I loved the explanation. I loved everything about it. I also like that Sanju points out that nobody's crossed that border between worlds, though, right? So I don't think you kids can even get to the human world. And they're like, oh yeah, you know that for certain? He's like, well, I've heard that. And they're like, okay, well, hate to break it to you, but it's probably happened. Right? Like, not that they say it like that, but, you know, that's what they're thinking. Like, hate to break it to you, but there's probably a way through. And even I'm kind of like, sorry, Sanju, I'm kind of with the kids on this one, where I'm like, no, you haven't heard that, because obviously that probably wouldn't be a thing people talk about. You know what I mean? Like, I'm certain people have crossed over. I just don't know how long it's been since it last happened. But that said, yeah, I'm pretty content with the info dump. And it didn't even really feel like an info dump, because it wasn't that much. It's not like they spent like 10 minutes explaining the lore, right? It's like, nah, it was just a quick kind of info dump, and it makes the world seem all the more fleshed out. I really, really dug that scene.
I am JoJo, the zombie, and I am burdened with glorious purpose. And that purpose is to tell you to hit that subscribe button. I'll wait. Thank you.
But you know what else I really, really dug? Sanju and Mujika. I love these characters. Like, they blend in so well to our group. Like, they actually, like, really sort of fit roles that I wasn't even aware that we were lacking, right? Like, Sanju's obviously my favorite between the two, because we haven't really seen much from Mujika, who I'm going to be calling Mujika until I'm corrected otherwise. But, yeah. Sanju, like, he sort of fills this sort of, like, Piccolo type role, right? The mentor who's, like, kind of been everywhere and seen it all, right? He's sort of, like, the mentor type role, and Mujika's sort of filling in this sort of, like, motherly type role that, like, Emma is definitely, like, the motherly bond for the kids, but Emma's more of, like, the leader, you know, whereas Mujika's sort of taking on that sort of, like, caretaker role. Again, two roles that I wasn't even aware we were lacking until they showed up. And I was like, oh, they really kind of blend in to the point where I don't really want to see either of them go, you know? Like, I really like these two. And I don't want to see them disappear on me. I really enjoy their presence. And I don't think they're going anywhere. Only because they're in the friggin' OP and ED, right? So I highly doubt that they're going anywhere. So I'm kind of happy to have them stick around. I just worry that, like, maybe we'll leave them for this arc and then they'll come back later or something. I don't super know. Or, like, we'll leave them for a few episodes and then they come back. I don't know. I hope that we don't actually split with them at any point. because I just really like them. I think they blend in perfectly well, and I think their character designs are fantastic. Speaking of character designs, time to bring back everybody's favorite design time, where we talk a little bit about character designs and try to glean a little bit about the character and what the mangaka slash character designer are trying to tell us with these characters. And I think when it comes to Mujika's design, I think is amazing, right? Like her design in particular, like Sanju's design is super cool, but Mujika's is amazing. Like I'm shocked how cool it looks. Like her sort of like the goggles she's wearing are great. But in terms of what the color choice is and like her design in this world, she looks otherworldly, even though she's wearing sort of like just a dress with like a sweater, you know, like she still seems like a child of the forest, you know, like she seems like a forest sprite, a forest spirit of some kind. Like she just sort of has this like, for lack of a better character, I can't really think of another one better than this. She kind of gives me Aerith vibes from Final Fantasy VII, and that's just kind of the vibe I'm getting from her. Even though the color choice is different, the vibe is still there, just in terms of like what clothes she's wearing and the sort of demeanor and presence she's giving out. She kind of gives me Aerith vibes, and I'm definitely here for it. I gotta say, the purple hair in particular. Now, if you've been with the channel for a while, you'll know that colors have sort of like a symbolism. Colors sort of, because of how our world has developed over time, colors might actually sort of like trigger a thought in your head, right? So when I see purple, I think of one of two things. I either think mystery or I think royalty, since purple was typically a color worn by royalty, and mystery is typically associated with the mysterious, right? Like, us commoners, we don't know what happens behind the closed doors of the nobles and the royals. So, of course, purple has sort of taken on two connotations. The royalty and the connotation of royalty and the connotation of mystery. And I think that both really suit Mujika, right? Because I think the mystery of the character is very strong, right? So the purple hair sort of really is indicative of like, this character has a mysterious past that we're not quite aware of yet, and maybe we'll learn about it. Judging by the ED, I assume we'll learn about it. But why am I saying royalty? I'm saying royalty because I really assume that this character, just based off the ED and her design, that this character comes from maybe not royalty, but a noble history of some kind. I do think that she is some sort of rich kid. You know what I mean? Like, she comes from some sort of family of import. Again, I'm basing this off the ED, because I feel like the ED kind of spoils some stuff, and her design. I think her design is really telling, and I think there's just something about the design that sort of tells me that, like, she might have been better off in a different world. I don't necessarily feel the same about Sanju, because he seems a bit more rough and tumble. Whereas Mujika's design sort of implies a sort of softness that might not really come with existing out in the woods by herself. I do think she might come from some sort of background like that. And again, I'm anime only, so if she doesn't, or if she does, either way, don't tell me, you know, sort of just let me find out on my own, let the other anime onlys find out on their own. As always, around these parts, we do the asterisks, laughs in manga, or blanks in manga, which really should be a t-shirt by now. Blanks in manga t-shirts, coming soon, probably, I don't know. But, yeah, I really think her design stands out to me as just, like, really engaging. And just, like, the light blue hoodie, the hoodie, it's not really a hoodie, but you know what I mean, it kind of looks like a sweater. The light blue sweater, the white dress, like, white being a color of purity, light blue sort of being a calming color, like, all of this just adds together for this sort of chill character, who, again, kind of gives me Aerith vibes. Whereas Sanju's design is a lot more sort of like rough and tumble, you know? He's more of like a basic badass type character because he has like the brown cloak, brown being dependable, sort of boring, but like dependable and reliable, right? Brown is a color, when you see it, you sort of think, especially like in a cloak, you know, like dependable, strong, if a little bit boring and mundane, right? Like, and I do feel like that sort of fits Sanju, where Sanju has like deadpan reactions to everything. He is a bit boring, but that's kind of what makes him funny in certain scenes where like the kids are like, would Ray have died? And he's like, oh yeah, he would have been super dead. And like, he doesn't mean it to be like obnoxious or like rude. He's just like being deadpan, right? And I think that really fits the character. So I do think the brown cloak is sort of meant to indicate he's a sort of bare bones, basic. I don't say bare bones and basic, but I should say more dependable and sort of like what you see is what you get with Sanju. He even has like the bandages on the arms to show that he's sort of been through some struggles. You know, he's fought. He's been through physical pain with the bandages on the arms. And the red hair, I think, is also like the red as a color also sort of indicates like courage, right? It's why Gryffindors are red. It's why they wear red, right? Courage, strength, pride. That kind of comes with the color red. So I feel like the red also suits Sanju because I feel like, you know, dude's a badass. He's probably going to be pretty confident in a fight. I love these designs. Absolutely love these designs. That said, that's obviously not the big thing about this week's episode. The biggest thing to me, and the thing that sort of like left me in my chair just shocked by the events of this week, is Emma hunting. Emma hunting was insane in a way that's like not so much hype, but just sort of like shocking for what it means for Emma as a character. And I think that this scene, I feel like a lot of people might sort of brush this moment off, right? But to me, it was haunting. And I don't really want anybody to sort of go past this scene not really thinking about it, because to me, like, this scene is a culmination for Emma as a character, right? Because Emma is so defensive of the people she cares about, and Emma has always been shown to be very, like, caring and loving and nurturing, and she doesn't want to hurt anybody. But now that you're on the run, Emma's realizing, yo, in order for me to make the food that Muchika's been giving us, and in order for me to keep my tribe alive, I have to hunt. And I don't know if you guys know this, but on my mother's side, they are indigenous, right? They are of First Nation. And they, you know, you hear stories about that, like, growing up, and how, like, when you hunt, you give respect. Right? Like, if you're going to hunt something, you give that thing respect because it died so that you could eat. So you give that thing your damn respect, right? And you send it off and you hope that it gets to some sort of afterlife that it rightfully deserves. And I was really, like, and I'm not a religious dude, right? But I do think if you're going to go out and hunt, you, A, make use of everything of that creature, because it was alive and you killed it. You know what I mean? Like, if you're going to hunt for food, right? If you're going to be in this position like Emma's in, and I do feel like that she's making the right decision here. But if you're going to be in this position where you have to hunt for food, you have to show that thing respect because it died so that you could live, and you have to make use of everything. Don't let a single thing go to waste, right? Because that thing died for you. You better make good use of it. And I feel like Sanju is imparting that lesson onto her, right? Like, Emma is obviously shaken up by this. Like, this is probably the I don't want to say the darkest moment, but, like, this is, like, the most shocking moment, I think, for her as a character. And keep in mind, she lost Norman, right? Like, that's shocking, but that was more sad shocking. This was more shocking and sort of resolving for her, right? Like, this idea that she can hunt in the same way that they are being hunted. And I just think that moment is huge. And I don't want anybody to let that moment fall by the wayside. I think the fact that Sanju not only teaches her respect is huge, but also the fact that he teaches her about Gunpa, as he calls it, or Gupna, Gupna. Sounds like Govna. That he teaches her about Gupna, which is like a way to show respect, right? This is what you do when you hunt. Right? And that is that you offer this creature to the gods, and if they bless it and allow it to pass on, then you can reap the benefits and you can have the food, right? Obviously, it's more of like a science thing because, like, basically the big thing is that he hands her the friggin' Vita plant, which I was like, oh my god. Right? Like, that was a shocking moment where you have to take the Vita plant and stab it into the heart, which we know, right? And then it drains the blood. And the one thing that Emma mentions here that I didn't even think about was that if it's draining the blood, it's probably still beating, which means that Connie may have been alive for that. Which, like, holy crap, poor Connie. I don't necessarily know if she... Because Sanju says, like, I really don't think that they suffered too much. Like, your family, I don't think that they suffered, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take Sanju's word for that, even though he's probably just saying that to comfort Emma/us. Because, yeah, I don't want to think about Connie or Norman or any of them, like, dealing with that at the end. And again, like I've said in the previous video, and as I've said and I have seen echoed in the comments, I didn't see no body, right? I saw Connie's body, which is sad, poor Connie, but I didn't see Norman's body, so I still refuse to believe my son is gone. I will not stop believing in I will not stop believing in Norman. Connie's dead. I will not stop believing in Norman. Like, I simply refuse. And I may stop reading the comments. I thankfully haven't been spoiled, but I realize that by talking about things like this that I am really welcoming spoilers, and I should be very careful. Yeah, I'm not super sure. But with that said, everybody, that is going to wrap up today's video here. So I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot. Share if you care. Leave a comment down below. And of course, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, and let all of AniTube know that you're here. And of course, before we go, I want to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at all of these beautiful names. And hey, if you would like to join these beautiful people, there are now 2 ways to do so. The first is by hitting that join button right beside the sub button to get a badge next to your name, some emotes to spam in the comments, and of course your name scrolling past the screen here. Or you can go ahead and check out that Patreon link in the description. Either way, they are both super appreciated, and I thank you very much. Also, I don't mention this enough, but we have a Twitch page. If you want to follow us, it's linked in the description. You are totally welcome. Like, we play video games, do all that fun stuff. We chit chat. We do the Isekaiwa podcast over there as well, live, and then it's uploaded over here. So if you want to be there live, it's a good way to do so. We also do some live reactions, and that gets put on the second channel. Also, if you ever have something that you want to recommend to me, like an episode that you're like, this episode's really hype, and you know it's going to be hype, let me know ahead of time, either here in the comments, but more preferably on Twitter. Just let me know, like, hey man, you better react to this episode, it's gonna be big. Like, I know for certain I'm reacting to the next Titan episode, because I think that's big. But yeah, if you know that there's like a Neverland episode that's gonna be really hype, or you think that there's a blank episode that's gonna be really hype, and you want to see my reaction, go ahead and let me know. But on that note, everybody, that is all for me, so until next time, you stay classy, and you wash your dang hands.